Hello everyone, Bailey here again. I hope you had a great week this week, and I'm glad you could make it to this week's Roundup. The plan today is, of course, to go over the most recent developments in the field of industrial cybersecurity, so let's just jump right in. The National Cybersecurity Strategy released by the Biden-Harris administration is set to rebalance responsibility for defending cyberspace and bring in accountability. It adopts a much more assertive position on the need for regulation and for the government to incentivize the industry to do more for cybersecurity. The National Cybersecurity Strategy redistributes the burden of cybersecurity away from private citizens, small enterprises, and local governments, and towards the institutions. It also works towards realigning incentives to favor long-term investments while strategically planning for and investing in a resilient future. As a statement of strategy, the industry is encouraged by the recognition that IT-OT convergence and digital transformation have increased cyber risk to the critical infrastructure. The strategy document recognizes that this risk is tied to national security. Regulation across sectors with proper incentives is needed to ensure that we're properly protecting every community and all critical services. Additionally, as supply chains converge, attackers will leverage the weakest links, which is why it's essential to raise performance across the board. Increased regulation means that the government will take a leading role in determining security gaps, defining best practices, and developing the expertise and guidance to ensure that national assets are nationally protected, and even the weakest links still maintain a minimal set of security standards. The President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, or PCAST, has set up a working group on cyber-physical resilience to bring together consulting experts from across the public and private sectors and academia. Over the next 6 months, the group will be consulting numerous experts and organizations, including the NIST, MITRE, DARPA, and DHS, in order to formulate recommendations for the President concerning building resilience across critical infrastructures. This week, less than 6 months after its initial release, the U.S. CISA published stakeholder-based updates to the cybersecurity performance goals. In response to feedback received directly from the critical infrastructure community, these CPGs have been recognized, reordered, and renumbered to align closely with NIST cybersecurity framework functions to help organizations use the CPGs to prioritize investments as part of a broader cybersecurity program built around the CSF. The NSA, in collaboration with the CISA and industry partners, released a guide providing actionable identity and access management recommendations to better secure systems from threats. The paper provides system admins with best practices and mitigations to counter threats to AIM related to identity governance, environmental hardening, identity federation or single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and AIM auditing and monitoring. The FBI, CISA, and the MSISAC published a joint advisory with known Lockbit 3.0 ransomware IOCs and TTPs identified through recent FBI investigations. These ransomware cybercriminals function as ransomware as a service and are a continuation of previous versions of the ransomware referred to as Lockbit 2.0 and Lockbit. The agencies called upon organizations to prioritize remediating known exploited vulnerabilities, train users to recognize and report phishing attempts, and enable and enforce phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication in an effort to reduce the likelihood and impact of ransomware incidents. The Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee convened a hearing to discuss the unique cybersecurity challenges facing the healthcare sector and shed light on the impact that ransomware attacks can have on patient care. It also looked into how CISA and the Department of Health and Human Services can take additional actions to support the healthcare sector as they continue to face persistent and evolving cybersecurity threats. Ransomware attacks have emerged as the most significant threat to the transportation industry, with attacks nearly doubling, from 13% in 2021 to 25% in 2022. According to ANISA's initial cyber threat landscape report, these attacks are closely followed by data-related threats such as breaches and leaks, as cybercriminals target credentials, employee and customer data, as well as intellectual property for profit. The report aims to bring new insights to the reality of the transport sector by mapping and studying cyber incidents from January 2021 to October 2022, and in doing so identifies prime threats, actors, and trends based on the analysis of cyber attacks targeting aviation, maritime, railway, and road transport in that timeframe. Threat intelligence firm Mandiant provided a comprehensive analysis of recent activity of hacktivist groups targeting OT systems, leveraging information from previously undisclosed and known incidents to discuss the potential implications for OT defenders. Awareness about emerging hacktivism trends helps OT defenders to prioritize countermeasures and differentiate state-sponsored fronts leveraging the hacktivism cloak. Mandiant also revealed this week that it had investigated dozens of intrusions at Defense Industrial Base, government technology and telecommunications organizations over the years, where suspected UNC 3886 Chinese Nexus groups have exploited zero-day vulnerabilities and deployed custom malware to steal user credentials and maintain long-term access to the victim environments. These hackers continue to target technologies that do not support endpoint detection and response solutions, such as firewalls, IoT devices, hypervisors, and VPNs. Sentinel Labs has identified winter wyvern APT activity, leveraging observations made by the Polish CBZC and Ukraine CERT. The hacker group employs various tactics such as phishing websites, credential phishing, and deployment of malicious documents, enabling unauthorized access to sensitive systems and information. CloudSec researchers say that a Russian threat actor group called Phoenix has targeted the Indian Health Ministry's health management system. The group claims the attack was the consequence of India's agreement over the oil price cap and sanctions of G20 over the Russia-Ukraine war. Access to the HMIS portal, hospital, employee, and physicians' data were affected, with plausibility of further cyber attacks by such groups under the pretext of India's geopolitical stances. The researchers also warn of hackers selling exfiltrated license documents and personally identifiable information on cybercrime forums, and conducting document fraud using this information. OT security vendor Waterfall Security Solutions released its WF600 unidirectional security gateway that blends hardware and software, enabling unbreachable protection at IT-OT interfaces with unlimited visibility into OT networks, systems, and data. Waterfall's unidirectional gateways protect OT networks with a hardware-enforced physical barrier that prevents remote attacks, malware, DOS attacks, ransomware, and human errors from breaching the protected network. 2 vulnerabilities in Wellentech's King Historian Data Manager have been identified, tested, and confirmed exploitable by Cisco Talos researchers. Users have been called upon to update these affected products as soon as possible to the newest version. Well, what a week we have had! And frankly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you want more in-depth articles, business news, events, associated resources, and just generally more where that came from, you can always check out industrialcyber.co. Have an awesome weekend, have an awesome next week, and I look forward to joining you again at the next Roundup.